can play over this for 5-6 minutes. Right. It's a short rush, and so you're just trying to capture the opposing team's control point and defend yours.
Instead of producing a large number of maps, most of which would go unplayed, we decided to try and build a single map with more innate replayability than any we'd built before.
In the world of Team Fortress 2, a tie does not mean everyone wins, but that everyone loses.
After 9 years in development, hopefully it will have been worth the wait.
Nobody's here. When it comes right on down to it, Hydro is practically 6 maps in one. Or maybe 8 maps. Or something. It's a big map. You're gonna have a pretty different experience anytime you play it. And that's by design. Territorial Control was trying to be some kind of super game mode. It has a randomized starting point, and the layout from there varies too. You aren't just playing to win that one area, it's all part of a bigger game. Each territory is a 2-point back and forth requiring a good balance of offense and defense in order to win, and eventually push your enemy back to their final base thing. It's pretty nifty. I mean, it's a neat concept, at least. Is this territorial control going to be the future of game modes? Is Hydro the ultimate map that will be the basis of all TF2 maps to come? I'll give you a hint, no. Hydro, along with Dust Bowl, Two Fort, Granary, Gravel Pit, and Well, were the original 6 maps back in 2007. You couldn't know back then that TC would be abandoned, with Hydro still being the only map of that game mode even 10 years later. When the game came out, Dust Bowl was the only attack defend map and Two Fort was the only capture the flag map. And the developers seemed especially proud of Hydro. It was something really unique that they put a lot of time into. And back when you only had half a dozen maps to pick from, one that was different every time seems like it should be a hit. Notice how all 5 of the other maps are still played fairly frequently today? Is Hydro really that bad? There are worse maps. I mean, at least it's not Junction, or Junction. I don't like Junction. For what it's worth, I think Hydro is one of the most visually appealing maps in the game. It really encapsulates the setting and the theme of TF2 in a way that newer maps don't tend to do quite as well. It takes a relatively mundane setting, like an old hydroelectric dam, but the further you go into it, it reveals hidden, but not exactly well hidden, satellite dishes, control rooms, old-timey computers, and stuff like that. Almost like it could pass for a James Bond villain secret base. Something bigger is going on around here, but we don't really care, because we're just mercenaries hired to protect it. Or steal it. Or something. Money's money. I really like the way this map looks. Also, Red's base and expiration date is even a modified version of Hydro, so that's kinda cool. By the time I got the game in 2010, finding a server that actually ran Hydro was almost impossible. It wasn't even playable on official servers until April 2016, when they added alternative game modes to Quick Play. So then Hydro was back, and it was remet with a resounding meh. People played it for like a week, they complained a bit, and then they went right back to playing Dust Bowl and Badwater. In this day and age, Hydro would probably be considered too confusing for new players. Snowplow was, and that whole map can just be summed up as, it's attack defend, but with a train instead of a time limit. Just cap the points, stupid. But Hydro is not always the same layout every time you play it. Certain areas you could access before are now just blocked off. Sure, there are giant team-colored arrows telling you exactly what way to go, but who uses environmental clues to figure things out? Not even Stephen Hawking could solve this one. Especially playing nowadays, when you find a Hydro server, a good chunk of the players have never even been to this map. So they'll spend like a minute walking around exploring, but then oops, you lost the game because the other team just slipped on in and capped your points. Now wait 30 seconds and you're shunted into another part of the map. Okay, and here's the biggest, or one of the biggest problems with Hydro. The rounds either last under 60 seconds, or it's like asking Sniper what old bread is like. Stale, mate. Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Oh, man. It's either complete steamrolls or it's down to the timer. And of course, the other big problem is everything's a choke point. A lot of older TF2 maps have this problem, but it's kind of excessive on Hydro. Pretty much any connection between two territories is just a narrow path. One of them with a big old death pit in the middle. You just funnel the teams into these areas where one team makes it through and caps, or nobody makes it through. Where apparently stalemates are the more common outcome. With even Valve themselves poking fun of this, claiming that the summer update of 2013's patch notes would be longer than a stalemate at Hydro. They say there are still some reading it to this day. But I think I've personally noticed more matches that end with the territory being capped super quick. Probably because most Hydro servers only have like 10 people. Even then though, the fast capping is probably a little closer to how the map was intended to be played. But it's not really all that fun. At the very least, with an 8-minute stalemate, you could kind of wander around and get kills and stuff. I wish I could say Hydra was more fun. I mean, I don't dislike it. And you could get a good game in there every now and then. But you know, it's a flawed map. It's just choke points and stalemates. Obviously, certain people don't mind stalemates. Two Fort and High Tower are still pretty popular maps. But the people who don't play those maps for the objective also probably don't want their match to be interrupted by a time limit just to be put into a stalemate in a new area. Although I would probably argue that CTF and High Tower would be better if they had time limits. I don't know, people tend to like consistency and Hydro doesn't have that. If you want to, you could kind of imagine Powerhouse as like a spiritual successor to Hydro. It basically has the same map theme, just a little bit less fancy. Powerhouse even originally started development in 2007. And it didn't come out for another 8 years, when the developer decided to come back and finish it. Huh. That doesn't bode well for Cactus Canyon and Asteroid. See ya in 2022 then. Territorial control was ambitious. It's not a terrible idea, but even with all the effort put into Hydro, the execution was subpar. And realistically, Hydra is probably not salvageable into a really good map without pretty major overhauls. But it's still fun enough, at times. I'd at least give it a try if you haven't. Maybe the TF2 team will revisit territorial control again, but I won't hold my breath. It's more trouble than it's worth. At the very least, they're not so ashamed of Hydro that they prevent it from being played on official servers. Arena. And at least it's not Junction.